Next on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend. U.S. soldiers deployed to help in the fight against Ebola will be isolated at one of 5 military posts when coming home, including Fort Bliss. A car crash in East El Paso leads to shots fired, with witnesses on the scene tell ABC-7. And 3 men have admitted to killing a group of missing Mexican students. We have the latest. And in storm track weather, Dan.
We are tracking another system that will cool our temperatures down in the future. But for the weekend, we will be dealing with the winds again. Exactly when will we see them? That's coming up.
It's all the news you need to start your Saturday, November 8th, 2014. ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend starts now.
Live, where news comes first. From the Mesilla Valley and Las Cruces to El Paso and the borderland. This is ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend.
Just take a look at this. High winds in West El Paso this morning. Our crews just shot this video at the 3900 block of Stanton. The wind gusts are so bad, El Paso police have closed off part of northbound Stanton Street right in front of Mission Hills Park due to high wind damage. Fortunately, there was no damage to the home or anyone living there. And high winds aren't just knocking down trees. Several utility poles were also knocked down by the winds. As you can see, this utility pole by Mesa and Executive Center Drive was dangling as El Paso Electric crews and firefighters arrived on scene. El Paso Electric says no one is experiencing loss of power due to this electrical pole being blown over, but as you can see, the winds are very strong out there near our studio this morning. So be careful if you are driving in West El Paso this morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Josie Ortegon, and we're going to start your morning off with a look at your first forecast with Storm Tracker Dan Martinez. And Dan, we are under a first alert this morning.
Yeah, we've issued that first alert for West El Paso because of the strong winds that we are seeing right now. I want to show you the reason all this is happening. Let's go over to our weather computer. This is mountains versus wind, okay? We've got the strongest winds right now right over the mountains. So what happens? Well, when you've got the mountains right between it, the winds have nowhere to go but down. So right now we're seeing winds coming from the northeast down to the southwest. So those winds really just have to travel faster down the mountain since that barrier between them is really pretty much funneling them down towards the west side. The reason being, that is why we're seeing the winds in West El Paso the strongest as of right now. Officially at the airport, though, winds are at 10 miles per hour. 56 degrees is what we have right now with 47% humidity in Las Cruces. We're at 48 degrees. Winds are calmer there, southeast at 3 miles per hour. Expect these winds to last through the day today. By noon, we're expecting a temperature of 62 degrees, 65 degrees by 2 o'clock. And then notice we'll get into the breezy category by about 5 o'clock. At least that's what models are calling for as of now. Will we see any more winds for your Sunday into your Monday? I'll detail that coming up in the entire forecast in about 10 minutes or so. Josie?
Okay, thanks, Dan. Now, a rather frightening situation unfolded on the road yesterday. A case of road rage led to shots fired. Police say this happened in East El Paso shortly after 5 p.m. 2 drivers crashed near Kastner and Castron in a residential neighborhood northeast of Lee Trevino and North Loop. Police say the 2 drivers got out of the car and one of them allegedly fired a gun. We learned that there was also a SWAT standoff a couple blocks south at a home near McKenzie and Pendale. And our newsroom is trying to confirm if these 2 incidents are related. Now, this is video of the scene last night. And here's what witnesses at the scene told our photographer. They say the driver who fired the gun ran into a home near McKenzie and Pendale. And when police arrived, that person refused to come out of the home and the SWAT team was called out. Witnesses say the suspected gunman eventually came out of the house shortly after 6. Police took that person into custody. Again, police have not confirmed whether both incidents are related. As soon as we get more information, we will let you know. And if you're headed out the door this morning, be aware that Paisano is closed between Executive Center in West El Paso all the way south to San Antonio Avenue in downtown. Crews began construction work yesterday. City officials tell ABC-7 crews will be pouring concrete on the new Paisano Bridge. And this complete closure will be in effect until 6 o'clock Monday morning. Now, also in that same area, Sunbowl Drive is closed. That's the access road starting at the Yandell intersection to the westbound Schuster exit ramp. Crews will be working on the new Yandell intersection, and this will be in effect a lot longer, though. This will be in effect until Wednesday, December 31st, so plan accordingly.
If I'm an El Pasoan, because I live here as well, I would be more concerned about catching influenza.
That's Lieutenant Colonel Lee Peters from Fort Bliss. ABC-7 spoke to him yesterday, and he's confident that Ebola will not be a problem within the El Paso community. Yesterday, we learned the government is mandating soldiers be isolated for 3 weeks when they come home from parts of West Africa, and Fort Bliss was chosen as one of 5 isolation stations in the country. Lieutenant Colonel Lee Peters says it was chosen for a number of different reasons. One, because it's close to William Beaumont Army Medical Center, and plus, the government said staff at Beaumont and Fort Bliss are capable of monitoring the soldiers. And Lieutenant Colonel Peters adds the soldiers will have no direct exposure to Ebola or patients showing any symptoms. More than 300 Fort Bliss soldiers are expected to head out to Liberia to help transport medical workers in the area. 75 Fort Bliss troops left late last month.
Because they're very good at what they do. We're soldiers. Come on, we know how to protect the public. You know what I mean? So they're good at what they do. I'm not even worried about it. I know they got it handled.
They're military. So in the military, we always practice Mop 4 anyway, which is basically the same thing. Put a hood on, put a mask on, cover up, no skin. They do that from basic training on. So the CDC requirement, it just reinforces what they already do all the time for training anyway.
And you heard from several El Pasoans who are confident in our troops as well. Today, Fort Bliss officials will take our crew to the site where the soldiers will be isolated, and we'll have a better idea of how it will operate then, so be sure to watch our later newscast in the evening for that information. Meanwhile, more American troops are headed to fight the terrorist group ISIS. President Obama is sending 1,500 more soldiers to Iraq. This means about 3,000 American troops will be deployed there. But they won't be physically fighting. Instead, our soldiers will train Iraqi and Kurdish forces to battle the terrorist group. The White House will also ask Congress for more money. If approved, $5.6 billion will be allocated in the war against ISIS. And in Mexico, 43 students have been missing for more than 5 weeks, and some disturbing details are emerging about what happened after police allegedly attacked their car on the way to a protest. A young survivor says his friend was brutally tortured. He told his story to CNN's Rafael Romo.
Friends.
Se acercaba a mí para pedirme chance de ir a su casa.
He would always come to me to ask for help with chores and assignments, he says, because he needed to go home for several days to work and feed his family. 22-year-old Julio Cesar Mondragon was one of about 100 students on their way to a protest in late September in the city of Iguala. Authorities say they were attacked and fired on by police working for a criminal gang. 43 students were abducted and 3 others died in the gunfire. Neri de la Cruz survived.
Encontraron el cuerpo tirado en la calle entonces.
He says Mondragon's body was found hours after the attack, lying on the street several blocks away. His friend de la Cruz says was tortured brutally.
No tenía lo que era el rostro y ni los ojos tampoco.
The skin was peeled off his face and his eyes gouged out, de la Cruz says. Authorities confirmed the facts of the case. The victim's 24-year-old wife told us she identified the body through some of her husband's unique features. She declined an on-camera interview, saying she's afraid for her and her daughter's safety. Julio Cesar Mondragon had dreams of getting a higher education, his wife says. He started attending the Rural Teachers College in Ayotzinapa in July. He had also just become a father. His first child, a girl, was born in August, a baby who will now grow up without her father. Fellow students and residents from the town of Ayotzinapa, where the Teachers College is located, are honoring the victims with this altar on campus. As they continue to search for the missing students, they demand that Mondragon and the others not be forgotten and that justice be done. Rafael Romo, CNN, Ayotzinapa, Mexico.
Turning now to national news. Almost a year after a motorcyclist found the remains of a California family who had vanished from their home in 2010, authorities say they've arrested the man responsible. 57-year-old Charles Merritt was arrested on Wednesday and appeared in court yesterday. He's charged with 4 counts of murder in the deaths of McStay, his wife, and their 2 young boys. Their bodies were found in shallow graves last year in a remote patch of the Mojave Desert. Investigators believe the family died of blunt force trauma inside their home in Fallbrook, California. The LA Times is reporting that Merritt and McStay ran a fountain-making business that was doing well. Now, in an earlier interview with CNN, Merritt said he received a phone call from Joseph McStay the night they disappeared, but didn't answer it because he was busy. and tired. Still ahead on ABC-7's Good Morning El Paso weekend, a year after a typhoon devastated a part of the Philippines, government officials there are just now putting forth a plan to rebuild. And a fourth student has died after the Washington school shooting last month. We'll have those details coming up. Time now is 8:10. Let's take a live look outside, a live look at traffic this morning. I-10 and Azarco. Traffic is flowing. Roads are clear. I-10 and Executive. Again, those cameras are shaking. It's a windy day out there, so bundle up if you are headed outdoors. And in Storm Track weather, Dan.
Well, we continue watching those winds very closely. We'll take a look around your neck of the woods with our Storm Track Weather Net coming up in our main weather forecast.
You're watching ABC7, where news comes first.
You're watching ABC7's Good Morning El Paso Weekend with Josie Ortegon and Storm Track Weather with Dan Martinez.